Hey guys, this is Micro Beauty, and I'm going to show you how to work with putting your putting your decal on a glass cup, and we're gonna cut it in two different colors. I will be using permanent vinyl, and I am going to cut both of my colors on one mat because I have little pieces of different colors, and they are less than 12 by 12, so I'll be able to fit both of them on one mat. So without further ado, let's get going. I got this file from Design Bundle. It's free. I already pulled it into my design spaces in the image, and now I'm going to be pulling it in as my into my project. So I had already measured my cup, and I need my design to be set 2.5 inches of width, and for my lens I'm going to do 3 inches total. So the first thing is, you need to decide, do you want it to be one color or several colors. I know that I'm doing several colors, and I want the word daughter to be in pink, and the rest of the stuff is going to stay in black. So what I'm going to do first is to enlarge my image and see whether or not I'll be able to use a slice to get the daughter word out of the design, so I can cut it by itself in a separate color. Because right now, because it's a single flat file, if I click on make, this will print as one whole thing, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to cancel out, and I'm going to enlarge it a bit more. The reason to that is because if I have it in a small size, I don't quite see whether or not the art is attached to the rest of the image or if it's all by itself. And I can see that there is a space for me to cut it through just fine, as long as I position everything correctly. Now you can also use contour, but given how much design is in here, it's going to take me a long time to contour portion of the image and then recontour and hide the other portion of the image, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to utilize the slice ability instead. So I'm going to pull in a square. I'm going to open the size so I can adjust it a custom, and what I want to do I want to position it just so that it cuts out the first part of the design that is sitting right above the daughter. So I think I need to bring it a little bit more further down, and it's not touching the word daughter because I don't want to cut off any part of this. I'm just going to make tiny small adjustments. So this looks pretty good to me. I'm going to select all of this where I'm selecting my square and the design itself, and I'm going to use slice. So I sliced it out and it looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna get rid of this. That is not what I want. I'm gonna get rid of this one as well because it's just my copy that I do not need. And I'm going to move this out of the way just for now, because I'm not done with my slicing, right? So let's get this out of the way, bring this a little bit higher up. At this point, be very careful not to change your size. The reason to that, if you enlarge this portion, then when it's time for you to put it all together, you have to remember that you need to adjust the part that you already cut off to match the size that you're changing the other piece of the file to. I mean, if you need to do it, go ahead and do it, but I think I have it enlarged enough that I can position my next square over daughter part and it'll be fine. So, oops, wrong button. Let's go and grab another square. Same thing, you want to unlock it, because once you unlock this little symbol right here that allows you to give it a custom size, it does not respect the ratio. That's what it's doing, and have to be so very, very careful, because I want to make sure that the R gets cut off completely. I'm going to enlarge it just a little bit so I have a little bit more of a wiggle room, and I can see that the R is still hanging out like right there. You can see that little tiny black dot. to help myself to position everything just so, I'm going to enlarge my canvas without changing the size of the file. And I see that the little dot is indeed not covered by my square. So I'm going to see whether or not I can manually move it. And it looks pretty decent. I see a light red, a light line going between my square and the word squad, and so that tells me I should be fine slicing it. It's going to give me two separate components without accidentally cutting off parts on either one of the pieces. So again, we're going to select all of it, use a slice, and it's sliced great. So let's move this component. Let's move this, and ta-da! I now have two separate pieces. Well, actually three, but who is counting? Now, I'm going to minimize this to 75% to see it a little bit different, to see it a little bit better. I'm going to move my stuff around. Okay, and I'm going to position here. So that looks like that I need to readjust the daughter a bit. So I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to adjust a little bit further, because if you notice, the daughter is a little bit too much to the right, and it really should be in line more on the left. So I'm not going to do any manual manipulation at this point. Instead, I'm just going to rely on Align tool. So I'm going to click on Align and select that I wanted to align it to my left. Okay, now I can see that it's much better aligned. All right, at this point, you have several options, right? You can select the word dad and a squad by themselves without touching the word daughter. And actually, if you want to, at this point, you can even move the daughter out of the way, as long as you're not moving the dad and a squad too much. And so you have several options, right? You can choose to cut the dad and a squad on breakable bond as its own thing. What it will end up happening is that because you're putting it on one whole piece of the vinyl, right? This entire space is going to be a wasted vinyl. I'm okay with that because I have a whole bunch of vinyl that I don't mind, if I lose like a little bit of the, what is it? It's going to be about maybe 1 inch length and about 2.5 inches of the vinyl, right? Because to me, the positioning is going to be so much easier. But if it was a larger design, right, and I had that, I don't know, like maybe a strip of a 2 inch by 10 inches, I might have like stopped and thought, well, do I really want to waste so much of the vinyl? And at that point, I might not have, cut this as a whole piece, but instead of breaking it apart and then work on putting it all together myself. So it's whatever makes sense for you, right? And whatever's easier. So I'm going to cut these two pieces together. So I'm going to press the dad and this one, not the daughter. And if you look on my right hand side, you can see that what got highlighted is only the squad and dad, which is exactly what I want. And I'm going to say attach. So now, as I move this out the way, right, this is becoming its own flat file. And it's not permanent, right, because I did not weld. If I was to weld it, then it would make it permanent, but I don't need to do that at all. And if I click on make, you can see it, right, that the daughter is completely on a separate piece and not, being put in the middle. So let me go back to my canvas again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the daughter back in here because I'm not done with this just yet. I still need to adjust the full size, right? Because right now I'm working with the file only to get the approximate positioning, but I have not given it the final size. And I said that what I needed to cut it in is it's going to be 2.5 inches width and the 3 inches length. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the alignment first, and I'm going to align it to my left. Okay, so it got, it had to be slightly moved. Great. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to group it, because if I don't group it, right, and I start adjusting the size, I will only adjust the size for dad and the squad, but not the daughter. But I want to adjust the entire project. So just for now, I'm going to group it, and I'm going to custom adjust the size by saying that I want my width to be 2.5 inches and my length, I want it to be 3 inches. Very good. At this point, I can put my canvas at a larger size so I can see what it is that I'm doing. I'm going to close my proportions because I do not want the shape to be, I don't want to be the size changed, right? I'm going to ungroup it, and I am going to leave daughter in the same colors that I have it, because it doesn't matter to me to be setting it in a separate colors. It's all going to go on the same mat. So now I'm going to click on Make It. Okay. At this point, here's my two pieces, right? So I already measured my black vinyl, and my black vinyl is 4x4, so I have quite a bit of a room, right? And so I'm gonna put this right over here. My black vinyl will, when I put it on the physical mat, right, it'll go basically from the very start all the way to the floor, and it's gonna cover this space. And then for my daughter that I'm gonna be printing it in a different pink color, I'm gonna just put it in over at the 5 inches start, and I'm going to make sure that when I do put my vinyl, right, it's going to be just slightly above 5. The reason to that is that if you guys see this red line, when Cricut calculates the size, it always takes off 0.5 inches off your design space. Like, it's not true 12 by 12, right? And it takes off that 0.5 no matter how small your vinyl is, right? So if you have piece 4x4 and you're trying to print the file that is 4x4 size, it will not print, it will not cut correctly. It will actually cut off, because what design space is going to calculate it at 3.75, 3.75, I think, or maybe it says 3.9. But my calculations might be slightly off because I always forget how much they truly take off. But okay, so I have my project set up. Now I'm going to click on Continue, and I have my maker connected through my Bluetooth, so it's just trying to wake up. And we're gonna wait together for it to wake up properly. Okay, it picked it up, and it's just a regular vinyl. I could have selected my light cardstock, and it would be an appropriate setting for the vinyl, permanent vinyl as well, but I'm just gonna go with vinyl. I do not need to mirror anything. I know that the pressure does not need to be added because it's not such a detailed design. It'll cut fine on a regular pressure, but if I did wanted to do more pressure in order to make sure that it really truly cuts through, I would have picked more. I cannot recall of a single instance when I selected less. I am not going to activate the fast mode, and the reason to that is because it is a fairly small piece of the cut. If I click it on fast mode, there's a chance that it'll lift my vinyl, and so I'm okay if it's going to cut slower. It's a very small cut. It'll be done in no time. And once I load up my mat, it's just gonna go up and start going. So hang on in there. Give me a minute to put up my vinyl. I'm sorry, my mat. Hey guys, this is Maker of Beauty. So I'm moving on to the part where I'm actually doing the cutting. So I just wanted to show you to recall that the one part of the cut is going to go on one color, and the other part is going on a second color. So here's my mat, and I'm going to be using my green mat. My green mat is, what is it? I want to say it's about 2.5 years old, maybe even a little bit more than that. It's not super sticky at this point, and the reason I want to use a green mat because it is fairly small design. So I want to make sure that my vinyl does not lift, right? So as I said, oh, it's actually smaller. Okay, let me just make sure that for some reason at first I measured my black vinyl as 4x4, but it's not 4x4, it's smaller than that. But I'm putting it on, right? It's, it's not perfect corner, whatever, it's just really leftover, but it should be no problem. I just want to make sure that it is dropping below 3. So I believe I should be fine. What I'm going to, I'll show it to you guys, what the sizing is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it just a little bit lower to make sure that I have enough coverage below the 3 inches. So I think it should be okay. Yep, at this point I will absolutely do a good job. Okay, so my black one is on, and here's my pretty pinkish glitter, whatever. And I set the War Daughter at 5 inches mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this just above 5 a little bit to make sure it doesn't get cut off. I position it and it's ready. So now even though I have 2 colors, like everything is going to be printing on one single mat, and you guys can see that my mat is actually pretty dirty because it's like it's all this little sticking out. It's probably stickiness from previous cuts and whatnot, so which tells me it's long overdue. All right, so my mat is ready. I'm going to feed this into my maker. So here's my maker. I already have everything on my, it did not feed well, so I'm gonna have to undo it and redo it again. So I'm just gonna wait for it to kick in. Oh, it's taking its time. Okay, let's try it now. Okay, now it's positioned much better, and it's ready to go. So I'm just gonna click on go. And so it's preparing my cut. It's detected the tool, and now off it goes to start my cutting. Okay, well, looks like that's gonna do the daughter first. I wanted to talk to you quickly about, needing to recut your vinyl second time. Like if you have something chunky like glitter vinyl and whatnot, what you can do with it is to make sure that it cuts all the way through. Is when the cut is finished, right, your pre-cut button is going to be blinking. So what you do is that instead of unloading it, right, you just click on the button second time, and it will go through second cut where it cuts in exactly the same line, and it's going to give you that deeper cut. Now I'm gonna hope that my vinyl is not gonna lift up because it's cutting so close to the edge, if you guys can see it, but I think it's doing okay. I'm gonna pause it for now and I'll come back when this is done cutting. The project ended up cutting, and what I was saying is that, if I wanted to recut it the second time, because let's assume it's a chunky something, right? I would just click on this button right here, the pre-cut, not this one, because if you unload and you put it through the second time, it will not cut in the same lines. It will be maybe close, it will be maybe like over it. You could also, cut it in a different order than your very first cut. So if you need to do double cut, just press on the pre-cut button and it'll go right back in smoothly. Someone who saves every single piece of my vinyl, so you guys can see where my dot squat is cut off. I'm gonna cut off this part, and I'll probably even try to cut in between, because I have little kids and they can always just cut this up and use it as a you know, polka dot art and whatever. And I'm gonna be the same thing with this one. It's very pretty vinyl. It's a little bit difficult to see the cut, but it reads like magic. And this one is I think it's a 51 from Expression Vinyl. So I have everything weeded out. Here's my cup, and I'm planning to put this right here on the top, and it's gonna pretty much cover it. I'm actually debating whether I should put it like something on one side and something on the other side, but oh, I didn't even see that I didn't have the video in the right position. But any case, so as you guys can see, because I cut it as it's two as one whole thing, right? When I'm gonna lift it, I'm gonna lift both of this together, and that will hopefully help me with alignment, which is, you know, always a bit of a pain. And the daughter is gonna go right in between, and I'm gonna use the contact paper. I would have liked to use the stronger grip only because, you know, I have small parts. But my concern is that if I use the like medium tack transfer paper, what it's going to do is that it's going to pull the other portion of it. Another option would be for me to lift the daughter first and put it in here. But again, you know, I'm back to like accidentally pulling in the other vinyl, and I just don't want to do that. So I'm going to put the black one first and then the pink one second. So as you guys can see, my transfer tape is on, right? And when I use the contact paper, I press like super hard, and I go very slow over the actual vinyl, but I try not to touch the white parts too much. And you know, there are like all different opinions about it, that if you press it all hard, then you get rid of all these bubbles and you end up with like less bubbles. I've tried both ways, and I kind of feel that when you're working with a small design, right, there will always be like some bubbles, you know, some days you have them, sometimes you don't have them. I don't worry too much. You know, what I usually do is I end up using the heat to get the bubbles, you know, out once I have the vinyl on my surface. And if needed, then I'm just gonna use a small pin to pop a bubble and hopefully, you know, get it laid flat. So next step would be to lift it and put it on the cup. Hey guys, so I just wanted to show you that sometimes, right, like when you work with a small design, and not like the strongest tape, for a good reason, like I'm doing it right now, it can be a bit challenging to lift your design. And so I utilize like all kind of different tricks. Like for example, right now I'm removing it, you know, the upside down, and I'm going to go very slow, and I still have my weeder right there, right? And then if I feel like, I mean, if I'm lifting like a letter as I'm pulling it off, I'll take my weeder and I'll kind of like hold it in place, so it becomes a little bit of a, like, I don't know, almost dental-like work. And I just wanted to share that feedback with you. The design is on the glass, and I'm just gonna go over with my scraper over each you know, the black components, and then I'm going to be slowly removing the transfer tape. And that's why I'm using the contact, right, because it's a glass and it adheres so well. If I was to do the medium tack, like all the small stuff would just basically lift it up, you know. If I had a thick fat, you know, cut or something, then it's completely different game. But with something like this, you know, having a strong tape is good because it's easy to lift, but then to remove the tape itself off your surface becomes a big, huge problem. So I'm ready to start putting the second part, but before I lift the design, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually also cut off the entire excess of both the white paper and the my transfer tape. And the reason to that is because it's just going to make it so much easier for me to work with my placement, and it's going to be a lot less of a transfer tape to accidentally, you know, pull the vinyl that's already on the cup. So here's all my cutouts. The tape is still on it, right? But it's just going to be so much easier for me to work with. All right, guys, so the second piece is in, and you know,
I often see questions about like how do you align it, everything. I don't think there are like any, specific signs to it. I eye a lot of things, right? I think that when I put stuff on a wood, it's much easier, because I tend to cut it like in large and I just put a transfer at once. So that makes it a bit easier. But with things like this, right, like right now, I just tried to do my best to get the D first aligned with the rest of the design, because I knew that it's all supposed to be on one straight line. And once I had the first letter in, then I put the rest of the stuff on. It looks pretty good. So I'm gonna remove the transfer tape, and then we'll see the end result. So here we go, guys. Because I cut out a lot of the excess. It's nothing is going too much on already placed vinyl, the black color, and because I reuse the same transfer tape, in this case contact, right? It's not as sticky, so it makes it a little bit harder with lifting off the design, but then of course it makes it much easier to be lifting off it, and that's a good trade-off for me. And here we have it. It's all done, and it's a very nice present to my husband. And the alignment looks good. I think the message is great. It's gonna be cured for a while, maybe like 2 to 3 days. It's not going to be going into the dishwasher. And the cup had come from the Trader's Joe, Dollar Tree. All right, I hope this was very helpful. If you guys have any questions, feedback, just share it with me, and I will try to generate more content that relevant and educational and helpful. All the best. Craft away.